Hi everybody, it's Richard here again with another video. This time I thought I would do a video on the dreaded live album. Possibly my top 10 favourite live albums. Come on, who likes live albums? Nobody likes live albums. They all pretend to like live albums, but nobody does. Well, I don't think that's actually true. I think there's I've my own theory about live albums. I think it's a case of whenever you hear a song, usually the first version you hear is always the version you will prefer, and in most cases that will always be a studio version. And it's the same with for example, cover versions. You know, X does a cover version of Y and you'll always say, I always prefer Y, it's a better song. That's because that's the version you have known the most, and that's the one that's hard to beat. Now there are occasions when, yeah, cover versions are better, but mostly it'll be not necessarily the original version, but the version that you know best of all is the one that's the best. And I think that's the same when it comes to live albums, because basically live albums are just cover versions of their own songs. And on occasions, whenever it's the live version you've heard first, and then you hear the studio version, you think, I prefer the live version. So that's actually happening in a couple of these albums. So I'm going to run down 10 albums. There may be the odd surprise in there you may not think I have in my collection, but yeah, here we go. Start with number 10, and this is an album where the majority of the songs I heard was off this album first before I got the studio versions, and therefore I prefer these versions. And that's Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, Face to Face, and this was released I think in 1977, wasn't it? Yeah, 77. Now the three previous albums to this were The Best Years of Our Lives, Timeless Flight and Love's a Prima Donna, and those songs are quite heavily featured on here. I prefer these versions to the actual studio versions, especially on the Love's Prima Donna songs. For example, the title track is much better. Love Compared to You, and this is much better. If This Is Love, Give Me More is much better. And it's funny, the songs that are on the Psychomoto, which I had before I even bought this, I prefer the studio versions. But this is a very strong live album. This basically, by this time he was starting to lose popularity, so nothing really after this was really any good, to be honest with you. And so this takes in a really strong set. Of course it finishes with Make Me Smile, one of the best singles ever. But yeah, Red is a Mean Colour, which is on Timeless Flight. Again, this is much better, and I think the highlight of this whole album is a solo acoustic version of The Best Years of Our Lives, where the crowd are singing along, and it's far better than the studio version. So that's my number 10. Okay, number 9 might be the surprise, but this is just a really good rock and roll album. This is Status Quo Live, and this was recorded after, I believe, the Blue For You album. And there's not really a lot to say about Quo. They're the 12-bar blues boogie band, and this is a fantastic set, really. It does have Caroline on it, it's got Down on it, and some of the tracks from Blue For You. And I'm going to open this up because I can't even remember what's on this thing. But Quo did actually return to as the Frantic Four to redo this album in about 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, the things like Backwater, Just Take Me, I think those are both sung by the bassist Alan Lancaster. You have Little Lady, 500 Times, most of the time, which is on the Level album. But yeah, this is Roll Over Lay Down as well, which it was actually a hit as a live version. I don't think it's this version. I think it's a different live recording. But yeah, I enjoy this. You know, it's, you don't have to think too hard about it. You just let it on and start. If I had hair, I'd be headbanging. It's a good album, and it gets my number 9. Number 8 I have mentioned before, and that is Slade Alive. This is fantastic. Filmed in front of a small crowd. This was Slade's first hit album. Again, a couple of tracks from their very first album, and a couple from the Play It Loud. Let me see, I'll open this too. I don't really play live albums that much, which is why it's on the Polydor label, of course. Yeah, it starts off with, what does it start off with? I'm on the wrong side here. Hear Me Calling, yeah. And in like a shot from my gun is brilliant. Darling Be Home Soon has the infamous belch in it. Know Who You Are was a single, and it's got a really good version of Keep Them On and Born to Be Wild. So yeah, that's number 7, and it's a very highly influential live album. Okay, that was number 8, sorry. Number 7, to me, is Genesis' best live album, Seconds Out, and this comes from the period of Genesis. It's actually my favourite period. This was just before and then there were 3 albums, so they'd done Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering. The highlight of this is actually Phil Collins doing Supper's Ready, which you wouldn't think you'd be able to do that well, but he nails it. Squonk is one of my favourites of all time, and The Carpet Crawl is a brilliant version. You know, I do like the version on The Lamb Lies Down. Afterglow, if you don't like Afterglow, I don't understand, because it's a beautiful song, and it's got Firth of Fifth and the musical box on it as well. Fantastic album. And yes, the only other, I've heard the Genesis Live from '73. It's okay, and the 3 Sides Live is okay as well, but to me this is their best album. Okay, number 6, and this is Wings Over America, and this was when Paul McCartney was at his commercial peak after the Beatles. This is the album he toured with. He toured At the Speed of Sound. This is the album that resulted, and the good thing about it is At the Speed of Sound they only played the half decent songs, the singles plus Beware My Love and Denny's Timed High, because it's a rather weak album. But this is a really good, strong triple album of Wings, really when they were at their peak. He does throw in a couple of Beatles numbers, which is great, to do a little acoustic set, but they're just like a little afterthought. The real meat on this are the Wings songs, and yeah, I think this is fantastic, it really is. And what an opener for Venus and Mars and Rock Show, which again I prefer this version to the Venus and Mars version. So that is my number 6. So we're getting into the big heavyweights now. For number 5 I would have It's Too Late to Stop Now by Van Morrison. Van Morrison vocally is fantastic on this. It's really soulful. This is around the time of his Hard Nosed the Highway album, and he has a great selection of songs. Warm Love from that, Into the Mystics, gorgeous. He even does Here Comes the Night from them. Caravan from what do you call it? Moondance, isn't it? Yeah. Domino, great song, hit single from his band in the Street Choir. I should really write all this stuff down because I am struggling here. It's a Saturday morning and it's too early. Listen to The Lion from St Dominic's Preview. It's his voice in this, it really makes it. Great album. Again, I probably would prefer that the studio versions, but this is one of the best, and it's very critically acclaimed as well. Okay, number 4. I love this. This is Bob Dylan at Budokan. And the reason I like this is because he actually changes the structure of the songs. He doesn't do them like they're on vinyl, which is what I like about a live album. However, if I went to a live concert, I wouldn't like it because I'd want them to almost replicate the songs. But as a live album, you want something different, and he does that. This is coming off the Street Legal album, and the version of The Times They Are Changing with the saxophone on it is absolutely wonderful, and he does a fantastic version of Mr. Tambourine Man in this as well. There is like Rolling Stones, Well Done. Again, love Minus Zero, No Limit. Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. All I really want to do. They're nothing like what's on the original album, so this is like a new album itself that really does accompany the Street Legal album, and I adore this. This is real. Rate this very, very highly. So that's number 4. Number 3. Is Paul Simon's Live Rhyming. This is, I wish this was a double album, to be honest with you. I love the way the whole thing goes. It starts off with Paul Simon on acoustic guitar on his own, singing away. Then he brings in the, which one does he bring in first? He brings in Urubamba, which are a South American, they're almost like pan-pipey type group, and he does things like Duncan, the Boxer, and what's that other one? El Condor Pasa. Then he brings in the Jesse Dixon singers, and they do things like Mother and Child Reunion, and completely brilliant reworks of Bridge Over Troubled Water and Sounds of Silence before he finishes off the set, going back to just him and the acoustic guitar. You know, to me, everyone talks about the Simon Garfunkel live at Central Park. I think that's a sterile album. This is warm. This is absolutely brilliant. And if you do get the CD, you do get an extra couple of tracks on it as well. So, yeah, my number 3 is Live Rhyming by Paul Simon. Number 2. Bet you thought it would be number 1. No, it's number 2. David Live, 1974, touring the Diamond Dogs tour. This is the original. This has been reissued God knows how many times, and they always seem to add an extra track to it. The 2005 version is the track listing of that is the one that you'd be buying in the shops now, which is probably better because it does have Space Holiday on it, and Panic in Detroit, and Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. But this is the one I grew up with, and this is the one I really love. The version of Sweet Thing in here is immense. Again, he doesn't stick with the records, the original recordings. So the Gene Genie sounds nothing like the Gene Genie, neither does Cracked Actor. All the Young Dudes sounds nothing like the Mott the Hoople version, or even the version he did, the Ziggy Stardust motion picture. Width of a Circle is completely transformed as well, and it's hard to get into, but this one really does. Reward, not 1984, Rebel Rebel, he actually re-recorded that for the American market and marked it down from about 4.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes, and put on backing vocals like Lie 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 Lie. You have to hear it to see it, or to understand what I mean, sorry. But yeah, he does that version here, which I actually quite like. But yeah, I love this. This is a great album. Number 2. So what is number 1? Well, I think without a doubt the best live album of all time. And I'm going to show the CD as well, because the CD is actually the best live album of all time. It's not the album. This is the album. This is Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. This is brilliant. This here is the CD, which has 7 extra songs on it. I think it's more or less the full concert, and in the correct order. But if we talk about this, this is where I say the live versions are better than the studio versions, because things like Slippery People, Burning Down the House, Swamp, Life During Wartime, it's these versions I heard first. not the studio. So when I hear the studio ones, I do like them, but it's these ones I go to. And what a better way to start a concert than to walk on stage with a tape recorder, put it down on the stage, press play, and this backbeat starts playing, and you're strumming an acoustic guitar and singing Psycho Killer. Brilliant. And the thing I like about this one is it starts with that also, but then I think next comes, it's Tina Weymouth comes in, and I think the next song, yeah, they play as Heaven, and the band come in, more members of the band come in for the next one until everybody's in, and it's great. It's a great video to watch if you actually see the video. My favourite on this is Life During Wartime. I watch that on YouTube all the time, and it's one of the best feel-good records you'll ever watch and ever hear. Brilliant. Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads. This was them at their peak as well. I think they went downhill a little bit afterwards. The Little Creatures album, which came after this, was okay, but it just wasn't quite as good, and then I sort of gave up. So there you go. There's 10 of my favourite live albums. I will admit I don't play live albums that often. The Talking Heads one I would play, as I would David Live and the Paul Simon one, but I very rarely play the rest. Oh, Bob Dylan I would play too. So the top 5 would be, you know, the ones that would be on rotation. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, I do think live albums are not bad. It's just you're not used to those versions, and if you're used to them before you hear the studio, then you have a different view on the live album. So anyway, that's me for this week. So anyway, I hope to see you all soon. So have a nice remaining weekend. So all the best. Bye bye.